without further ado, I think it's time that we get into a little bit of Miss Flor Jansen's masterclass. I love this series. This has been a very fun series. It's something I want to continue doing with different really, really fantastic singers on YouTube, going through their how-to videos and just digging in a little deeper. Because a lot of time when people upload free, helpful content like this, regardless of who they are and no matter what their intentions are, it's impossible to cover everything vocally, right? It's impossible to teach someone how to sing in a video. So really fantastic singers like Flor will supply their feedback, supply their commentary, supply their knowledge as best they can in a digestible format. And so we're kind of taking it to the next level, taking what they're saying and churning it even more into an even more digestible, deeper, more understanding version of it. Something they can do, but their time is valuable, so we're going to supplement it. All right, so this is Flor Jansen's Breathing Technique and Support Explained, Vocal Masterclass number 2. Let's listen. What's my dream destination?
Hello and welcome
It's
back
Slovakia.
to my masterclass. You just jumped into number 2. I don't know if you already watched number 1, but I would recommend you to do so if you haven't.
We did that
in my previous masterclass. I told you that everything I'm going to tell you is based on my own experiences. Yes, I'm a trained vocalist, and yes, I've been teaching a lot, but it's been a while. And vocal method has been updating itself throughout the last 10, 15, 20 years, and it constantly gets better and better. And I think it's important that you would work with a teacher nearby to you instead of only watching things on YouTube, because it's very hard to get the right reflection. I cannot be your talking mirror,
Yes.
which means that I would like to reflect on what you're doing exactly when you're doing it. If you cannot have an actual teacher nearby to you, training in front of the mirror is still a big recommendation, because then you can actually see what you're doing and not only feeling, because our instrument is on the inside. But we can still see, is our belly working? Are all the muscles working that we want to have working? Are there any muscles working that we don't want to have? Those are things that you can see instead of only feel, and that's an important thing that I really want to recommend to you. Well, today...
Yes, guys, so that's one of the reasons I started this live stream, was to give people who don't have the ability to go to a voice teacher the ability to get feedback from another person who, knows maybe a little more about the voice than you do. In this case, it's me. I've spent a lot of my life trying to figure out that kind of stuff. Not even a quarter of the amount of time that she's spent being a singer and being a vocal coach and all that stuff. But I want to echo that sentiment. And there are lots of people from the community, the big brain singer community, who have come to the voice clinic, taken some lessons, and then have been inspired to go seek out a teacher in your area, because you can't replace the experience of being in the same room as a vocal teacher, a vocal educator who's working with you one-on-one. I can do my best to work with you over voice chat. I can do my best to work with you and what I see over the video, but nothing can replace that experience of working with someone face-to-face. Obviously, right now is not a great time, but just to echo her sentiment, like Flor's capacity to supply information and the value she supplies is being filled in the form of this video, right? And that's incredibly useful information. And now I have a little more flexibility to work with you guys one-on-one here on stream. And that is what I can supply you guys who are here now. And the next level up is finding someone near you who you can work with in person. Now, you can get so much out of all of these different forms of content, but do not underestimate the power of going to meet someone in person, even for just a free trial lesson. Many teachers do that. Choo, guys. Thank you for the hype train. Choo, MF Choo. It can't replace the experience of going and meeting someone in person, oftentimes for free. You can do that. A lot of teachers will have in-person free consultation lessons where they'll work with you. You'll get a feel for their teaching style. They'll get a feel for your singing, and you can talk about what to do from there. Anyway, this cannot be... I know it's sometimes, at the beginning of videos like this, it just feels like a disclaimer. So like if you try something and it doesn't work out, it's not her fault. That's true. If you do something wrong with your voice, and it's not because she told you to do the wrong thing in a video. But also, this should not be overlooked by any means. If you really are serious about becoming a better singer, go find a voice teacher in person when that becomes available, if that's available to you. Highly, highly recommended.
Today we're going to go through the basics because those are so important to continue all the other singing that you might want to do. And one of the most fundamental things is right breathing and the right breathing technique. There we go. So we're going to be talking a little bit about breathing. Fortunately, you do that every day, so you have been practicing quite a bit. But in the day-to-day breathing, you breathe out here. Your lungs extend here. So obviously the lungs are the parts where the air goes into, but they're not only up here. They go all the way down here, and they're also at your back. They can extend towards here. They can extend towards here. They can come out to the side. So there's a lot of place for air. So what's interesting to know, and we'll be looking into this, is how much air you actually need to sing.
Yeah,
because
right.
Air builds up pressure. If you think of your lungs like a balloon and you blow it up, and there's a lot of air in there, there's also a lot of pressure you create. And that's where breathing support comes in later, to make sure that that air does not come out. Because with regular breathing, you breathe in to immediately breathe out again. With singing, you don't want to just lose all that air.
With regular breathing, guys, for speaking, you're not using your full lung capacity. And I'm trying to find a picture to illustrate this point a little bit. Here's a good one. Oh. Here's a good picture. Check it out. So these are your lungs, right? And we know this general shape. It it comes around, it comes down. Here's your diaphragm here. It's a really cool detailed image of the diaphragm. Okay, no thank you. Now, one thing we don't take into account is what she said about the back. And that's one of the biggest things overlooked. Notice how this diaphragm kind of seeps over, right? It goes down, it dips down in the spine as it goes towards the spine back here, right? Dips down towards the spine. That whole area, where the diaphragm is kind of like a bubble in this the diaphragm in this diagram is kind of like a bubble. The dip on the back, that's all space that your air can go into, right? That's all muscular. That's expandable muscular space. And though when you're inhaling, your diaphragm flattens out, even more so, you want to feel that expansion backwards. Because this cavernous space, this is an exhaled position for the most part, at rest, and then it flattens out to allow the lungs to fill with air. You feel that not on the diaphragm and not in the middle of your body. You feel that on the edges of the diaphragm, because the diaphragm doesn't have any nerve endings, so you can't feel anything. The back and the front, you want to feel that in a ring of expansion around. It'll feel like a ring, but it will be representing the entire lung cavity being filled up. Anyway.
But you have built up pressure, so you're going to need the right kind of muscles to support that breathing. But first, we want to see where we breathe towards. So we don't want to sing up here. Why not? Because there are not too many muscles in this area that can actually support the breathing, as in hold back the air and give off bit by bit that you need throughout the entire sentence, and not just in the first half. And end up like that. So
don't want to stack.
What we want to do is breathe towards our bellies. And we also do that on a daily basis. Woohoo! So that's good. But we usually do it when we're relaxed, and usually when we're laying down. So the first exercise is not going to happen in front of a camera, because it's no fun seeing me laying down and relaxing. But I do invite you to try that and see what happens if you start to relax and you lay down on your couch or on your bed, wherever you want to just get comfortable. You feel that the breathing goes from up here to down here. So your lungs start to extend towards your belly, and your belly makes space for your lungs to extend. That's the kind of breathing that we would like with singing, as for starters, because we can still use other areas as well. But this is a fundamental one, because there's a lot of muscle in this area that is good for breathing support, that will help you to not just breathe out, but keep the air in and support it up again. So what's going to happen in the end is you're going to breathe out, and when you relax, as you do on your couch, your belly goes out and your lungs can extend.
So yes, this is an adaptation. This is an easy to digest version of an exercise coined by the famous castrato, tenor, male soprano, tenorino, whatever, Farinelli. It's called the Farinelli breathing exercise. Now what you can do is exactly what she's saying and add an element to make those breathing muscles even more concrete by taking a book and placing it on your belly. Now, when you do everything she's telling you, the only added element of that book or any kind of weight, a couple pounds, couple kilos, a couple 100 grams, is it'll help you feel those belly breathing muscles even more. And it is very similar to meditative breathing, but a little more muscular, right? Now, for the two of you who are laying down right now, I will say, try this. Try doing everything she's talking about. It definitely helps you engage the core more when you put a little bit of external weight on the belly as you're doing this exercise.
So you first want to get familiar with that feeling. It's going to get a little bit harder when you stand up. In my experience as a teacher, and even when I was a student, I found it very hard to just instantly relax. If I look at my belly, I can feel my belly. I can look in the mirror, see my belly, and it's not relaxing. So how do I do that? For me personally, it was easiest to start stressing muscles instead of trying to instantly relax them. Because from stressing those muscles as hard as I could, it was much easier to let them go because they get tired after a while. So a first exercise is putting your hands on your belly, one up here where your stomach is, and one here where your belly button is. We're going to take a deep breath in, and then you're going to breathe out on F with all the power that you have, but I want you to feel that you use the belly muscles. There we go. By letting go, I already have enough air. I don't need to get any extra, but that's something you're going to be practicing on. So we're going to do...
Wait a second. This is really cool. So I'm incredibly guilty of this, as much of my emphasis as a teacher is on how to sing through relaxation, right? And that relaxation, I always encourage people, relax. But that instruction inherently is super flawed, right? It's inherently a counterintuitive negative instruction, right? You're welcome, Operbot. Yeah, F consonant. We're not on pitches yet. This is all about breathing. Everything she's talking about is breath support and breath technique. When you get that instruction, when someone like myself, someone is so bold to say, hey, just relax your jaw. Hey, just relax your breathing muscles. When you are told to relax, you inherently are more prone to actually tense that thing that you're being told to relax, because your brain kinesthetically engages with whatever thing you're trying to relax, and it becomes like 10 times harder then to relax that thing. You can't do it consciously because you start to then engage it without even realizing it. And what she's supplying as a solution for that is genius. You don't give that muscle an option to tense up. You don't give it a choice because you've tired it out. So instead of trying to nebulously try to like let go of a muscle, which is really hard to actively do. You can't actively let go of something. You tire it out and then get used to the sensation of it naturally not even being able to become engaged. This is exciting. This is what sets great singers who are great teachers apart from people who are just great singers or people who are just teachers without any performance experience. Because this is one of those practical things that makes sense, right? If you can't just say relax my core, How about you tire your core out so it's already just going to let go? And then you get used to that. Genius. Minila, I wish I had a voice teacher who did this. Fantastic. All right, so for the 7 of you laying down, let's try it out.
Just repeat this a couple of times. Look at yourself in the mirror. You'll look just that.
So now let's try it.
For me personally, it was easiest to start stressing muscles instead of trying to instantly relax them. Because from stressing those muscles as hard as I could, it was much easier to let them go because they get tired after a while. So my first exercise is putting your hands on your belly, one up here where your stomach is, and one here where your belly button is. We're going to take a deep breath in, and then you're going to breathe out on F with all the power that you have, but I want you to feel that you use the belly muscles. There we go. By letting go, I already have enough air. I don't need to get any extra, but that's something you're going to be practicing on. So we're going to just repeat this a couple of times. Look at yourself in the mirror. You look just as smart as I do in front of the camera right now. It doesn't matter how you look.
Very
Focus on
smart.
how it feels. There we
Very
go.
big brain.
Stress those, and relax. And again. It doesn't need to take so long. We just want to push out the air and let it go. Push out the air, breathe back in, push out the air, and see if we can actually relax the muscles we stress.
That's good, Johanna.
That's where we want to go towards. Don't get frustrated when it doesn't happen on your first attempt, and give yourself a little pat on the shoulders when it did, because it's not that easy. This needs repetition. That's it.
And repetition for the purpose of coordination. Don't think that you have to do it over and over again just to wear yourself out or whatever. Yes, the point is to engage your and to engage your abdominal muscles. And then the point is to engage your abdominal muscles to get them tired to release, right? And then, but if you do it over and over again, don't try to focus on the musculature, because this is going to create pressure up here in your neck if you go too hard on it. Really just do it over and over again to get that coordination of engage when you exhale and then completely relax when you inhale. Engage when you exhale and then completely relax those abdominal muscles, which create expansion when you inhale, right?
If that starts to feel a little bit more comfortable and you didn't get all because maybe in the beginning you don't get enough air, take it easy with yourself and allow your body to get used to this a little bit. Then we can go for a second exercise where we take short puffs out. So
okay, before the second exercise, Fox, your professor had you experiment with German breathing. German breathing technique from a classical standpoint, coined by the great singer Lotte Lehmann. She wrote a book about it. And it's basically using the idea of antagonistic breathing, which is when you expand to sing out and compress to breathe in. It's a very the function of it is very strange, very similar to belting, actually, belting technique now, although the desired sound is a little different. But what's happening is you're engaging the muscles of exhalation, those compressor muscles, as you're taking in air. You're pressing those muscles out, not really releasing them, but you're pressing them out when you're singing. And it creates this sensation of engagement that's similar to what she's talking about. But I would say it's more similar to what she was talking about in her belting video, right?
Stress the muscles. Every time we breathe out like this. And then I take a little break and maybe I try it again. And then I think maybe a little bit more air, because I'm not going to breathe in between. I'll just bring it out, push it out. And I can relax. Nice. What happens when you breathe out is that the air...
Okay, so this is a really good breath warm-up, what she's talking about. Because it's taking that... It's exactly what she said, right? It's taking that idea of breath engagement and it's kind of taking it to the next step. Now, one of my favorite variations on this, just to share, because this might work differently for you, is not just pulsing air, but completely relaxing the body in the form of a pant like a dog. So basically, take that idea of constant breath engagement. And when you're doing this, your belly should be bouncing in and out. It should feel like this. Let your tongue hang out of your mouth. And then just pant like a dog. The only way to do this right, you're going to get tired and you're going to run out of breath if you're not letting your belly just go like this. Look, I'll show you. It's just like... Now, I knew someone who could do that for like 10 minutes straight, and it's really not easy to do it for that long. But as long as you're letting out as much air as you're taking in, it's going to be the perfect breath and also body warm-up. So give it a try. Don't do it if you're pregnant or if the other half... Wait, what? If you're having or the other half might think that you're having contractions. Good point, Creeper. Yeah, it's really, really good engagement down there. What she's talking about is more along the lines... So the panting exercise is sort of like the cardio version of this, and Floor's exercise is more about the like muscular intensity discovery anaerobic version of the exercise, right? For ballroom dancing, we trained to breathe sideways because you want your core engaged all the time. So expanding sideways versus forward, always longer sustained breathing. Yes, so everything she's introducing is the beginner level, right? Because the muscles are much more specific than just your belly and just your back. There's much more specific muscles that you want to get in tune with over time, including the side muscles, which helps with lateral expansion of the rib cage, which helps with getting more air in and getting to control it there. But yeah, I mean, everything she's talking about is this is warming up the breath, this is getting started, getting to know those muscles from an introductory standpoint. But I love that idea of engaging, because what expanding out to the side and breathing out sideways is going to do is actually help you with your posture a lot better, which I'm sure helps when it comes to ballroom dancing, Meowvalent.
Air goes out of your body, and in a minute you relax your muscles and allow it to go in by opening your mouth and your
belly button
throat,
to spine, hold, relax.
it just goes back in. We're going to try that on a long F, on a long but now this time I want you to focus on not just breathing out, but I want the beginning and the end of your breathing out on F equally strong. Think of it as a sentence in a song. You start singing the sentence and you want to have as much energy on the first note as you do on the last of your sentence. So if you put it back into singing content, it's very important that you know how to stress the muscles equally throughout the whole sentence and that you don't run out of breath before that. So we're going to put it back into a simple breathing exercise where we breathe out on F from the first to the last equally strong. When you need to take a breath, take it and try to see if you can actually focus on getting it towards your belly. There we go. Now I know that this exercise might seem very similar to the first one that we did, but now the focus lays on equally long, equally strong breathing. Mm-hmm. That already takes the focus away of other things, and you need to give yourself the time to build up these things.
And guys, it's that equally long, equally strong breathing that when we do reactions to a lot of Floor's singing, I love to point out how at the ends of her vocal phrases, she always has a really crisp, clean release of pressure on the voice. And that's only possible when she can control and meter out the amount of air she has and keep it consistent throughout the entire phrase. Because then at the end, instead of running out of air and really like scraping together all the muscles to keep supporting the sound, she doesn't need to do that because she knows how to support the air consistently through the sentence, as she says, or through the vocal phrase, which I would say. And that's what allows her to just release the tension and then therefore release the sound, release the tension in the sound, right? if she was struggling to get through a phrase, if any singer struggles to get through a phrase, the end of the phrase is going to have a lot more tension because it's going to be more of like a kick off of the phrase instead of, okay, I'm going, engaged. I have a long engaged phrase. I'm metering out my air, and release. Instead of, oh my God, I'm running out of air. Oh, I lost all my air. Oh my God, it's tensing. At the end of the phrase. That's what that latter example is what happens when you run out of air while you're singing. Everything she's describing, getting good at it, doing it all properly, is what will stop you from running out of air because you'll be able to control your air from a muscular standpoint instead of a, oh, I hope I have enough air this time.
It's sometimes a little bit boring, I must admit. It really is.
Yeah.
But it's going to help you so much because this is programming your body, feeling how the muscles work slowly but surely, and
I'm ignoring chat right now.
Relax. Now, I put my hand on my stomach and on my belly button here. There are muscles everywhere here, and they work a little bit differently because, well, up here, there's a stomach. So as soon as you start to stress these muscles here, they actually go out a little bit, those muscles, because they're on top of the stomach. Mm-hmm. Down here, when the muscles start to stress, they go in a little bit.
Yes.
So what you're going to feel when you really work for it, you're going to feel that this area becomes a little bit rounder and this area becomes a little bit more flat. And the other way around, when you relax, then this area becomes a little bit more flat and this becomes a little bit more round. That can help you in the process of finding the right way to stress the muscles. Feel it with your hands, see it in the mirror, feel what happens with your body inside of it. The combination will help you in the process.
Okay, so... All right, Creeper D. So for those of you who I've been starting to work on like kind of the next level of breathing stuff with, the way this is described, we talk about the solar plexus versus just the entire belly. At first, if you're someone who comes in and you don't really know what you're doing breathing-wise, or if it sounds like you need to support more, we'll start with the idea of the whole belly. The next level up from that is relying on the solar plexus, which is that upper belly part, that part of the stomach she was just talking about, the part that comes out like this. When I talk about it, I talk about that part, and the way I feel it when I sing as well, is that part of your body is kind of melting out. It feels like it's constantly just like going forward, melting out. And then in that sense, your lower abdomen kind of uses the gas pedal. The lower abdomen is gas pedal. It's exactly what she's saying, right? Your lower abdomen needs to come in and get that part supports. And if you ideally you want to feel that support system all around below that muscle lining on the bottom of your ribs. But the sensation of that solar plexus, that upper belly coming out while you're singing is the sensation that allows your diaphragm to stay nice and flat and consistent, so you don't get any jerks of air. You just get a consistently supported vocal phrase by keeping that upper belly, as she's explaining, expanded. And that lower belly is going to support to push the air out. And you're going to feel a little bit of push and pull in all of those places to not, overly shove out and not overly compress in. And that's where the idea of muscular antagonism that we talk about so often comes into play, where the two muscle groups are working against each other, so you as a singer have a more refined understanding and a refined control of those muscle groups.
The same exercises we can do on a note, still focusing fully on actually breathing. So what we're going to do now is sing on an ah, take whatever note is comfortable for you, and we're just going to see if we can only focus on pushing out from here and letting it go. There we go.
Do it, Johanna.
This becomes a bit rounder, this a little bit flatter, and I push everything out that I have, and let it go.
Nice.
All right, seems to be working. If it doesn't work, maybe take a step back, try it on and then integrate it back onto a note.
So a few ways just to know if it's working or not would be feeling the sound in your body instead of in your throat, right? You never want to feel, and as she said in the first masterclass that preceded this, you never want to feel your sound in your throat. You always want to feel your sound elsewhere. You never want to feel your jaw tensing up. Now, if you're supporting well the way she's describing it, it's going to take pressure away from here because you're expanding the area below the voice and giving it room elsewhere. So if you're supporting and expanding right in your belly, in that solar plexus area right here, then you're not going to need to pressurize here at all to get that sound. Now, this should be in your middle voice, right? So you also want to make sure that your jaw stays nice and relaxed. There should be no big event to make a sound like this. And you can do that by engaging these abdominal muscles without engaging anything up here, especially your shoulders. You want to feel it all below your rib cage. This is very, very simple. Oh my. Milo gets a treat after this video.
Steps. Boring, yes. Necessary. We
Yes.
can also do the second exercise where we do short puffs and we take the power, let it go. We're going to see if we can put that onto a note. There we go. Ha, 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 ha. That already takes a little bit more control because now I'm also singing, so I want to control my voice. I don't want to just go anywhere. And I'm doing this. You see where I'm getting at? That the combination of things are only going to start building up. Now we just did ah.
So who knows what that exercise is called, what she was just doing? I have a feeling like all of you know what it's called. Anyone? What's it called? Come on. Look at her face. Someone screen cap this. That's funny. No. I'll give you a hint. What is it? What was she just doing? The exercise she was just doing. The floorgasm. No, I don't like that word. Yes, Nati. Nati's already a VIP, so I can't re-VIP her. But it's an onset. This is an onset exercise. Did my dog just get delivered for treats? No? Okay. This is an onset exercise. Onsetti confetti. Exactly.
That already takes a little bit more control because now I'm also singing, so I want to control my voice. I don't want to just go anywhere. And I'm doing this. You see where I'm getting at? That the combination of things are only...
Everything she was just doing not only helps you coordinate with your breath. This is a fantastic exercise. Doesn't only help you coordinate your voice and your breath, but it also helps you practice that onset, that vocal onset, which is that first moment that your chords come together to make sound. You don't want it to feel like anything's being pushed in here. You don't want to feel like it's all like, ha, ha, ha. You don't want it to feel like a pant, right, with just a little pitch on it. You want it to be very balanced, like what she was doing. Every onset she was just doing was incredibly well balanced, which means that the breath starts at the same time as the sound. Ha, 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 ha. If you get really good at coordinating that and keeping your body, your muscles engaged, your breathing muscles engaged, that's when you start to make some real vocal gains. But that's hard. It's boring and it takes time, as she's saying. Don't give up.
Start building up. Now we just did ah. Think of it. Think if we're going to do a whole exercise, it already becomes harder. Think we're going to put this into a song, and we also need to remember what we're actually singing. Take your time to build things up. If it feels like, I'm singing this song, but I'm never reaching that high note, or I just always run out of breath. Go back to your exercises. See if you can build up better stamina. See if you can build up better control, and go again. All right, yes. We did one more exercise where we really focused on singing, breathing, equally strong. From the first moment you start to sing to the very last note you sing, it's going to be supported. It can't just go down because you're running out of either power or...
Before this last exercise, everything she's saying, going back to the vocal building blocks, that's the key, right? That's the key. Yes, so it's the same thing as in Ghost Love Score, and all of those really high onsets, ha, 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 huh, 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 huh. It's that same exact muscular. That's why she's like an Olympic athlete of singers, because she does exactly what she just demonstrated, which you can all do on your own time. You can do that right now if you want. But she does that at an athletically Olympian level to do those. And in Romanticide too. Yep. Yeah. Those high onsets. It's the same thing. It's just taking those fundamentals, those building blocks, and boosting them up, which is why I love watching these masterclass videos, because it's all stuff that she implements in her singing. You can go through her discography, and if you like have memorized everything that goes on in these masterclasses, you can pick out where she does things. She even does that herself in one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to try that with a full focus on that. We're going to take the same whatever is comfortable for you. Focus on the breathing. Feel how the stomach is doing. There we go. I don't want it to go down. Ooh, there at the end here, I got a little bit tired. I need to build better up. I need to feel that I can really use everything that I have power-wise and breathing-wise to sustain the whole note. There we
Lovely.
go. We practiced. All right, that was it for breathing part.
It's always, guys, so much more effort in the abdomen than you think. Like even me, I'm sitting here and I sing every day. And I feel my abs doing work every time. It's part of the gig. But it's not that she gets tired. It's that she feels how much her abs work. I think she must have just meant like, she just wasn't engaging enough. Because the idea of the onset, let's get philosophical for a second. The idea of the onset's not only the vocal start, but it's the start of the entire engagement process for singing. So an onset vocally, that that exercise is not just the sound you're making that you want to make perfect. It's also the way you're engaging your muscles, because you can make that work by getting really tough on your muscles in your body. Just like that. You can do it in a really like aggressive way. But if you're in your lower range, you don't want to use the same amount of effort that you would need to for a really high belt onset, right? I see, like if you overdo it, it also like makes your crack. If you're using too much, it's inefficient muscularly, then you're gonna get tired as you engage your breath muscles, right? The key is to know how much musculature you're using, how much effort you're using down there to sustain for the vocal phrase you need.
One, there's lots to do with this, and it's super, super boring. So I hope I made it a little bit more fun for you. Go and stand in front of your mirror, confront that self, and practice.
Confront that self.
Breathing support. Where do you support?
Yes, Nati, me too.
Which muscles do you actually use, and which one do you not use? Well, we already focused on the belly, and the lower belly, the area around your stomach. That's a very, very main area that you really want to have control over. Then there's the entire diaphragm that really helps to support with a massive power center here.
Spralis, I hear you.
And then there are the muscles in your back here called your latissimus dorsi. It sounds very fancy. For very, very strong men, it looks like they have wings. And for women, it's usually the area where your bra is. But then there are also muscles in your lower back.
The muscles that line the rib cage, right? The latissimus dorsi, the lats, and then, the other muscles. I always forget the names of them. She's very smart.
That really help to sort of support, keep up the torso when everything else starts to work. Muscles up here, no, they don't really work. Your shoulders, nah, they just stress.
I don't really watch reaction videos often, but some people were asking vocal questions the other day in a Discord server about a certain reactor talking about her singing. So I went and watched the video, and she said something along the lines of, she was doing this really dramatic look like this, right, when she was singing, and she was singing a high note for a certain very famous song. And she looked up like this and held the mic up like this and do that. And one thing I really didn't like what she had to say. Yes, Spralos, thank you. You're my muscle person. One thing I didn't like that this reactor said was that Floor needed to put her head up like this and bring her shoulders up to sing the note. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what? What singer needs to manipulate their upper body? The answer, I think, unsurprisingly, is none. Yes, you can move with good vocal technique. You can have flexibility and you can move all of this you want, but it's not for the purpose of making a certain sound. It's not for the purpose of singing. A power pose, she's a performer, right? If you're a performer, you want flexibility. You want to be able to do whatever position you want. The only thing you need to be in a certain configuration is, as she's saying, those muscles that line the rib cage, your back muscles and your abdominal muscles, those need to be athletically prepared in good posture. Everything else should just be flexible and disconnected from that. So the shoulder, right? The shoulders, they should be relaxed. They shouldn't come up. They shouldn't get tense. None of these muscles should get tense. And when she performs, they don't get tense. But just remember, if someone tells you that you have to move your shoulders or your neck in a certain position to sing, no. I know I talk about the larynx sometimes just to help you feel more here. Feel what's going on a little bit here. But in reality, all of the muscular engagement you need during singing is done in that belt of muscles around the base of the rib cage, as she's explaining. It's your core, right? Everything down there that comes in helps support the breath. Everything up here. And then the back muscles, which keep your lungs expanded, help you with keeping a good posture. As Meowvolent was saying, it's that side-to-side breathing feeling. When that latissimus dorsi, she said on a male, it looks like wings. When you expand it, some people say that it almost feels like you're spreading your wings while you're expanding those latissimus dorsi muscles. And then the rectus abdominis and all those other, transverse abdominis, all of those abdominal muscles below the ribcage, that's what supports. And then you've got your solar plexus and all those muscles around the base of the ribcage that help you keep your diaphragm flat. Everything else above the ribcage, don't futz with it. Don't get too engaged with it. It'll just get in your way. It'll make your sound more tense. Yes, definitely. Shoulders communicate with your your sternocleidomastoid, affect your laryngeal elevators and depressors, so relaxed shoulder. Yeah, it's good to keep your shoulders relaxed when singing. And you can move your shoulders while being relaxed. There's nothing inherently connecting your arm or your shoulder blade to anything up here. It's just about having muscular flexibility through practice, right? Alexander technique does a great thing with shoulder movement and where you're feeling the movement rooted from. Anyway, this is a long tangent. Let's finish. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Jaw, no. How about your ass? No. There are
Absolutely,
so many more muscles that seem to want to work along, but they don't really. You can still use a lot of energy from your body to really get there, as long as you don't stress the right ones and not everything else.
Yes.
So we're going to pick this up in parts, because
we should have just waited, because she kind of just covered all of it. Everything we just spent, 5 minutes talking about.
We cannot just reach all those muscles at once. Well, during my lessons, I found it very difficult to just point at somebody's muscle and say, this one, here, feel mine. Now I feel yours. Can you use it? It's very difficult.
I'm guilty of that.
You have maybe never used it like that in the context of singing. And so one of the things I started recommending, because I felt it myself so much, is to go out and sports. Do a lot of sports and get really sore in those muscles, because then you'll really feel them the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to stress them a little bit, they're like, oh yeah, the feeling of doing sports and coming home with muscle ache in places you didn't know you even had muscles. Well, that's sort of where I'm getting at. Get them sore so you can feel where they really are. When you start to sing, activate them.
Enjoy your Indonesian.
That process is slow. It's going to take a little bit of time to get used to where they actually are. And this is the part where I wish I could stand in a room with you to show them where they actually are and how to activate them. In general, good action and activity and power in your body is vital. One of the things I noticed throughout my lessons and throughout the years was that a lot of people don't know how to tap into the real energy in their bodies. That didn't mean they were not strong enough, but how to activate yourself. And the people that had lessons with me will remember how I asked them to give me their hands, and I would grab their hands like this and drag them through the room.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute I started pulling on them, they started activating a lot of muscles. Surely also a couple we don't really need, but definitely a lot that we...
Don't call me Shirley. Yes. Physical activity, going for a run. A lot of my private students will talk about how to set up a routine for yourself to most optimally be ready to practice, right? She talks about this in the form of being mentally prepared. She talks about this in the form of being physically prepared right now. I will tell people, do some sort of physical activity, whether that's going on a 5-minute walk, whether that's going on a 20-minute jog, or going to the gym before you sing. It is so important, because what that's going to do, especially if you're using a lot of big muscles, is it's going to, stop you from tensing up in the wrong way, or most likely stop you from tensing up in the wrong way if you know what you're feeling for. But also, it will just get those muscles engaged. So when you're singing, it doesn't feel like you're becoming like a surgeon and manipulating all these small muscles up here, because that's really hard. It'll then get you into this place that she's talking about, in being able to use your whole body when you sing, feeling like you're singing from your whole body. Spralos, I know you've probably experienced a lot of that. And I think one thing you said about being a personal trainer, and then, yes, warming up the whole body when you sing, very important. Spralos, when you're talking about being a personal trainer and having a tough time with those grunts and those using your voice in an efficient way while you're training someone, I think it's really important to you know muscle groups probably better than I do, but utilize, those muscles for the voice more. And now we're talking about it here. I'm sure you can now start to think about using those, lat muscles, those base of the rib cage muscles, those abdominal muscles, in a way that will just support your breathing for vocalism in another way, because it's the same thing. Singing is an athletic event. Singers are athletes. Singers like Floor are Olympic level athletes because of the way they have to use their body. It is not easy. It is not something you can just figure out and do it. It's something you have to literally train your muscles to do.
We do. So if you're going to practice and you feel like you actually need a little bit more power, grab a friend by the hand that you feel comfortable with to help you. And if you don't really feel comfortable with that, you can still wrap a rope or something around something that...
One sec. This is my favorite thing. It's just like a rubber physical therapy exercise band. And what I'll do is I will, even if you're just sitting, you can do it, but you stick it, it's just a straight band. It's not even a loop. And let me see if I can do this. Literally just as I'm singing and breathing, I'll do any exercise. Like say I do lip trills. And I'm making sure to feel that gas pedal here, that engagement here, and just making sure that the sound is coming from the core. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I haven't even really warmed up at all today, and somehow the note came out, but it didn't feel like it was tense here. It was all in the core because of how you're using the muscles efficiently. Now, the most important thing about using those core muscles efficiently for singing is that you take pressure off of the chords. Take the pressures off of the chords.
Really hold, so you can hold yourself and pull when you need extra power. Not all the time, but when you need a little bit extra, because the moment you do this, you go through your knees a little bit, you activate a lot of muscles in your belly. You surely will activate a lot of muscles in your back. Just try to not pull.
Wait, Sprallis, I want your workout tips now.
Pull up your shoulders, keep them down, because that needs to wrap a rope or something around something that you really hold, so you can hold yourself and pull when you need extra power. Not all the time, but when you need a little bit extra, because the moment you do this, you go through your knees a little bit, you activate a lot of muscles in your belly. You surely will activate a lot of muscles in your back. Just try to not pull up your shoulders, keep them down, because that's where they're at their best, and then it's also easier to activate this latissimus dorsi and keep your back straight. That's where energy lies. But do you need 100% of your power all the time? Do you need 100% of the potential air you can take up in your lungs all the time? No. So that is another puzzle to make, because you might sing a very low tone, but with a lot of air on it. It's going to take a lot of your support and a lot of air to make an airy note. If you sing a very high belted note, it's going to take a lot of control and power, but just a tiny bit of air actually. And I see a lot of singers preparing themselves physically and mentally for the high note to come, and there they go.
No, don't do that.
And then it doesn't really get out. Why not? You should have had the shoulders down. We should have maybe taken a little less breath, because the moment that we really lift everything here, we cannot use a part of this area longer.
You lose control. That's the thing. When we're out of breath from working out, which is a lot of that's probably some of the most engaged breathing a lot of us do. We end up doing shoulder breathing. Shoulder breathing is really efficient for getting air in and out quickly. But does getting air in and out quickly help with singing? No. It also we also lose a lot of control over our breathing this way. Exactly what she's describing. So don't, if you are someone who's never, thought about breathing for singing, don't rely on your instincts to do that shoulder breathing, because while that does help in a cardio sense, get air in and out, it really doesn't help when it comes to singing breathing, as Fleur is talking about.
Latissimus dorsi, we can use the back really, and then we have so much air in our lungs. Think of that balloon and think of that tiny bit of air that you actually need for a belted note. It's just going to be really, really, really difficult to support all that air for not just flowing out. So maybe you recognize this from yourself. As soon as the high note comes, you go up like this, or the jaw starts to clench, and you take so much more air. You can do this during exercises, and I will surely come back to this even when we're going to continue with a little bit more like breathing exercises and vocal exercises, that we're going to focus on how much air you actually need. And very often, it's just a tiny percentage of the actual capacity of both your breathing as the power, the jaw, the helpful jaw.
So she went over that in her 4th video when she talks about vocal timbres and belting and that kind of thing. You want to make sure that you're never using 100% of what your voice can do. No one, doesn't matter who you are, no one sings successfully when they're maxing out their voice. I would even go so far as to say that singers like Fleur don't go above 80% of their voice's capabilities on a regular day, because that is absolutely, it's not smart and it's not necessary, right? There's no survival mechanism. I mean, sometimes if you really are not on a good day and the performance is very important, but 5 minutes. But probably less than that, Fox.
The one that wants to help along when you start to sing high and reach for the note when it comes. Or the jaw just in general wants to come forward, or a whole head that wants to lift up. We want our heads here. It's maybe a very old-fashioned thing, but they used to tell me this, to think of a long rope on top of your head, or you can, if you have long hair, you can just pull yourself up and make sure that you don't pull backwards, because it's going to You're going to pull the string.
But
'Cause
Janelle,
you
with
just don't
training,
wanna
you
lift
could.
like this. You can even hear it when I do so. This little area starts to push onto the larynx where the vocal cords are in, and creating a pressure that's obviously not helping, especially not with high notes, because think of your vocal cords as elastic bands.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an elastic band in your hand and you would stretch it out, and you would pluck on it, it would sound higher and higher, right? The further out you go, the higher the note becomes. Well, that's a little bit what happens with your vocal cords.
Yes.
So you can see what my hands are doing. The higher the note, the more space they need.
Mm-hmm.
And that space needs to be created in your throat.
Yeah.
And that's where the basics come in. That's where the breathing needs to be right, where the breathing support needs to be right, where the tension around this area needs to be right. Else, the system around the vocal cords will not provide the necessary space. And that's when it starts to sound tense, or the voice just doesn't do it, or all the effects you might be familiar with.
So someone in the Discord asked yesterday, does it make sense that you can't sing in falsetto when you're facing the ceiling like that? Yes, it is very true. It's very easy to stay in chest voice when you're doing that, but only if you're supporting with air. So it's a great way to train. If you want to maintain a lot of chest timbre in your sound, you want to make sure that if your head is up and you're using this as an exercise, this isn't how you would sing in practice, but it would be a way of getting to understand how to maintain chest voice timbre higher in your voice. If you do that, you need to make sure. So if I was to do I have to be more dependent on my air to do that. And if you are listening closely, you should be able to hear a little bit more chesty sound in the timbre. But she's absolutely right. In practice, you don't want to actually lift your head like that. That doesn't really help. It's good for an exercise. And a lot of this stuff, use it as an exercise. But when you go back to actually singing, it's all about just sticking to those fundamentals, which means that inherently in your practice, it should be more about fundamentals.
So you need the right space for those vocal cords to really, really go there. Think of, again, as your vocal cords as the elastic band. Also very low notes, then they become very thick and flubbery. Blub, blub, blub. So that's also why low notes are so hard to control, but for a whole different reason. Because they really want to control the air, else it just becomes really weird.
Yes, Nati. So she's applying that idea that I was just talking about when she does that. And a lot of singers who do, high power vocals do that. Because when you're in the moment and you're on your air, you're a professional, you're in the moment, you have all the energy you need, then doing something like, doesn't seem so difficult because you're already on your breath, right? It's different. You'll get that chesty timbre in the sound. Notice at the end of, I think it's at the end of Ghost Love's score. No, she definitely doesn't do that for that because that's a sort of a mixed sound. But it helps maintain that belty quality as long as you have enough support. If you don't, then the sound comes up, it gets kind of thinned. Like what I just did wasn't a great example because that sound got a little thin because I wasn't supporting enough, right? I have this freaking band wrapped around my legs now. But yeah, but that's a stylistic thing. That goes beyond the fundamentals that she's describing here.
Weird sound. And that's where all the breathing support comes in, the right breathing techniques, but also, once again, the jaw. In the previous masterclass, I told you that the lower jaw should always be behind the upper jaw. Not good.
I think a good example would be to go listen to like Romanticide when she and Marco both do that. Because you can hear it, you can hear the slide as it's happening. Kind of go, anyway, that's a good example if you want to hear that like grounded quality in the sound as it goes up.
No front, no stressing, no reaching either. So it should be behind. But there's a little bit more to it because there are so many different styles of singing. When you belt a note, hey, it's more like a smile.
Yes.
I reach up with the corners of my mouth. It's almost like I could bite into an apple. Hey!
That's an old... The biting an apple is like an old Italian adage, right? That would be used for teaching tenors to sing like very belty high notes, right? You know, use that biting an apple, that imagery. It's the same thing.
But when I sing a more operatic kind of note, I hang it down. I want to make a lot of space because I use different spaces in my head and the actual mouth where a lot of the acoustic comes out. So even an E is formed on the inside.
Yeah.
Also is formed on the inside.
So I'll recommend that to a lot of people. If you have 2/10 of a singing, which happens more often than too loose of a singing, I'll recommend you to stop singing vowels like E and sing more like I. Now, that vowel principle, doesn't matter the style you're singing in, that will imply the same amount of release. That will help influence that same amount of release.
But I can use the jaw a little bit more to help form the notes. So those things are important to take into consideration when you start singing, that the vocal type also kind of determines how the position of the mouth is going to be. But always, the jaw is relaxed, it's not tensed, yet with the biting apple principle of, hey, there's a little bit more tension around this, but it's not tensed, and I'm not clenching my jaw. And with the operatic stuff, it's much more open and down. But always back. I showed you a little bit of the exercise where I put a finger behind my upper teeth. Maybe you've been already trying it, and in the meantime you've been trying to quicker on
Lizzie.
Maybe in the meantime you've been pushing your finger forward, because it's really important that you keep it straight. And I just wanted to stress that one more time. If you're going to try this at home, do it in front of the mirror so you can see if the finger is still straight or slowly but surely still getting pushed out by the jaw. That's going to win the fight. So you really want to push it back. When you do this exercise, of course, it's very hard to pronounce any words. So it's not there for that. It's just to focus on what the actual jaw is doing. And when you're warming up or you're really focusing on breathing exercises and you're putting those breathing exercises into notes, you can also already connect this exercise to that. As I said, we're going to build up step by step, focus on different parts of the body that we need to learn how to control to eventually get them pre-programmed enough that it's a complete automatic thing that happens. So you don't need to think about that anymore so much when you actually start to put things, all this knowledge and all this pre-programming into a song. Which of course is the thing, like I said also in the previous masterclass, when I'm on stage with Nightwish, I don't think, ooh, I should focus on my belly.
True.
Ooh, I don't know if the position of my jaw is okay. Are my shoulders down? Am I tensing my... No. All those things I've done before. By the time I'm on stage, that's all done. Mm-hmm. I have been studying a lot, and I have had the pleasure to study with good teachers that taught me step by step where to go to, and people that needed to help me reprogram if there were things not going correct already.
She said it herself. You gotta learn from others. There's no such thing as self-taught. Well, there is. I guess there is. But when you can have others in your camp, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable and a lot better. Yeah.
Once again, give yourself a little bit of time. Try to sing like this. Focus on what your jaw is doing. Don't let it push your finger out. Keep it straight and see if you can make a little bit of a smile. Hey! Oh! Finger should be straight.
No,
all right. Good luck.
Oh.
Thank you so much for watching this second masterclass. I hope you were able to pick something up from everything I've been telling you.
This was great, Flora.
Once again, give yourself the time to practice. Give yourself the time to get this fully automatic into your system, and it's not done by a day or a week or a month. So give yourself that.
So the one thing before we finish up, she's about to, end with her little outro, and we'll finish it off. But I want to reiterate one point she makes, like really drive it home. And that is the idea of holding yourself accountable for all of those little checks and balances, all of those little building blocks. Yes, it's just harder to be self-taught because you don't have as much awareness as you do if it's yourself and someone else, right? And that's kind of the point I'm going to make. She talks about making sure like the finger is straight and it doesn't stray forward so your jaw doesn't creep forward, right? Making sure that everything you're doing is from the breath. Making sure that you are aware of things not going well so that you can just trim them up. Because it doesn't matter. You're going to make mistakes. Everyone who learns how to sing makes quote unquote mistakes. But it's about how diligent you can be with correcting them. And it's easier to correct those mistakes with someone else, but it's not impossible to correct those mistakes on your own. But that's the mental difficulty of it all. So it's kind of like this. Say you're going into your practice, and recently you've been working on keeping your breath engaged. You've been working on keeping that smile in your sound. You've been working on keeping your jaw back. And you've been working on keeping, your back expanded or whatever it is. Those are 4 things, right? And those are all things that she talked about in this video. Now, if you've ever made a bed before, right? You've washed your sheets, hopefully more than once a month. Gross. And you're putting your fitted sheet back onto the bed, right? So what do? I mean, this red rectangle's a bed, right? You get your sheet and you pull it over one corner, your fitted sheet. You pull it over one corner. Easy. Boom. That's your smile when belting. Or no, that's your breath support. You start out, you're working on your breath support. It's there. Okay, great. I got the breath support done. Now, you're going to pull over the other corner on the bed. That's your jaw back. So you're like, okay, great. Jaw is nice and released. It's back behind my upper teeth, and I'm supporting with my breath. Fantastic. Now, what's the next thing I want to work? Okay, staying smiley with my belt or whatever. Okay, so I got my breath support, I got my jaw back, and I have that smile in my sound. Okay, now the next thing I need to work on, okay, and you do all these exercises. This obviously would take a lot longer in a whole practice session. But the next thing is, okay, I need to make sure that my back is nice and expanded so that I can, relax my posture and stay upright. Okay, so I did this, and I got my 4th corner. The sheet came over, but then the second I started working on that 4th thing, then all of a sudden, this corner slips off, right? This corner slips off. It's like making a bed. You pull over all 3 corners, and then you go for the 4th corner, and then the first corner flips up. And then you have to go around and flip that one down, all that, right? It's all about continuously correcting, because eventually you'll have that bed made. And once you have that bed made, that fitted sheet is all those vocal fundamentals: the breathing, the relax the jaw, the support, all of those pillars, those building blocks, those fundamentals that she's always talking about, right? That's the building blocks. I didn't mean to cross out her face. That was kind of rude. But once you have that fitted sheet on the bed of those vocal building blocks, then you can put the pillows on. Then you can put the blankets on and you can make it look nice. Then you can do things like choose colors and make it into something your own. That's when you can do all of the stuff that makes your sleeping experience very enjoyable, or in the actual sense, your singing experience and the listening experience of people you sing for. But you need to get that fitted sheet on right. And if you, I love this metaphor because it works so well. If you've ever made a bed before and you don't pull the corners of the fitted sheet over right, when you go to sleep in it later, those fitted sheet corners pull up and you end up having the most miserable experience that night because you've got these elastic bands tied up on your legs and all this stuff. It's terrible. Yeah, you can put whatever plushies on your bed, whatever. You can make the bed whatever you want, but you have to have that fitted sheet down tight first. And if it's not there, your sleeping experience is going to suck. And the next day, you're going to have to spend so much more time taking off the sheets. If it's on the floor too long, you want to wash it again. You got to put it on the thing. Spralos. Bad. Regardless, these vocal fundamentals are those elastic corners of the fitted sheet. And you will have to spend time going around making sure each corner is down tight so that one doesn't flip up, right? That's what this is about. That's what being accountable for the things you're doing is about. It's not easy. Cthulhu plushie. All right, let's close this one out.
And most importantly, enjoy doing it.
Enjoy it.
It was a pleasure to tell all this to you, and there will be a third masterclass coming up also, where I'll be going through some of my personal favorite warm-up exercises.
That was a good one.
Stay tuned, and if you did not subscribe, please do.
Go subscribe. Go subscribe to Flora. Go be a member. She's a fantastic resource. She's a fantastic wealth of information, not only in all of her beautiful singing, but in the information that she supplies about her singing. Again, we're taking her 25-minute video, turning it into, an hour, 20-minute video. But if you really want to get better at singing and you really want to go forth and use every resource to the max, that's what we're trying to help with. These aren't going to be monetized. I'm not going to upload these and turn monetization on. That's just wrong. If anything, it's for the people here at the clinic to kind of get their brains engaged before we jump into a little more vocal detail work. So anyway, guys, let me go get Milo for some treats, and then I have to hook up my piano too, sorry. But I think Fox is first in the queue. So Fox, I'll drag you down when I'm back. That'll be great. See you in a second, guys.